Hello and welcome to our class on organizing your email inbox. My name is Emily and I'm a librarian at the McCracken County Public Library. This is a pretty easy 4-step process, but it can take a while. So we're going to start with talking about unsubscribing and then deleting, then setting up new rules, and then doing a review. I think that if you do the steps in this order, it is easier, but you don't have to do them all at once. And step 3 is actually kind of a multi-step process, but we'll get to that later. The first step is to unsubscribe, and you might want to skip this because it might feel like it's easier to just delete. But if you unsubscribe from things that you don't need, it's going to save you time later. Some things to look for are newsletters from services or nonprofits, marketing emails, and anything that you get regularly and mean to read, but you never do. And the link is usually at the very bottom of the email. We'll look at that in a minute. When I started organizing my inbox, I was really surprised at how many things I had subscribed to. Every time you order something online, they put you on their list pretty much. Anytime you fill out a petition, they probably put you on their list. There's a lot of things that you may have signed up for without realizing it. So what I did was every time I went to my email for a while, I looked for 10 things to unsubscribe to. If you are on a mailing list for a cause or a business that you like and you feel bad about unsubscribing, one thing to think about is if you aren't actually opening the newsletter, they aren't really losing anything if you unsubscribe. Having said that, some of the lists might fight you on this a little bit. Sometimes they will hide that link. Usually it's at the bottom of the text of the email. Sometimes they will put it at the top. Sometimes it will be kind of buried in a paragraph at the bottom. But I have never been on a mailing list that doesn't have an unsubscribe. I think that they have to. So definitely keep looking for it. Then after you click unsubscribe, it may take you to a page where they want you to fill out a survey, or they may kind of put a little message on there really begging you to keep on it. But if you've gotten that far and you're sure that you want to unsubscribe, you should just go ahead and do it. And sometimes it might take about a week for the mailing list to register your unsubscription. So if you unsubscribe and you get a few more emails, you shouldn't worry about that. And some businesses will have more than one list, like they may have one list for a newsletter and another list for sales. So that's something else to watch for. If you're still getting email, try unsubscribing again. And this is a step that you'll probably revisit after you do this step and you finish the rest of it. You may realize that you're still getting things that you don't need. And again, you'll probably be tempted to just delete it, but it is better to unsubscribe. So I'm going to show you the unsubscribe link. This is a work email address that I use in Gmail, which is going to be the examples that I show, but I can show you one screenshot from Outlook, and we'll talk about some of the other platforms that are out there. So they have their unsubscribe really simple right there. I'm not going to go through it, but it will take you to another web page. I'm just going to go ahead and go back to where I was because it's just going to ask like, why are you doing this? Or it may just say that you're unsubscribed now. So unsubscribing is pretty easy and it's something that doesn't really take very long. One subscription that you'll want to keep is the library newsletter. If you aren't already subscribed, here is the URL. It only goes out when we have something important to say, and it's always really good information. So after you unsubscribe, the next thing to do is you're going to look for some email to delete. When I did this for my email, I had a ton of old stuff, and the easiest way to do it is you can flip your email so that the oldest email is on the top. You'll find a lot of notifications for orders that have already been delivered and conversations that are already complete, sales bills from 3 years ago, who knows. So you're going to get rid of that stuff first, and sometimes you can select all and get a whole page at once. So I'm going to go back to my email. And the way it is in Gmail is right now it's grayed out because I only have 9 email in this box because I organized it. But where it says newest and oldest, that would be in black instead of grayed out. And I would click on oldest, and then all the oldest stuff would be on top and all the newest stuff would be on the bottom. And this box up here is how you select all. When I was doing my deleting, I would go through and just unselect what I wanted to keep, because there were fewer that I wanted to keep than what I wanted to get rid of. And then when I had everything selected that I didn't want, I would just click that, and that gets rid of it for you. I'm going to click that to unselect. So when I did this, I had literally hundreds of emails because my email address was about 15 years old. I had like 100 emails from different pizza places of pizzas that I ordered over years, telling me that the pizza is being delivered, and 3 years later you don't need that. So getting rid of that was just a huge help. After you delete, and this can take some time, I did it over honestly like weeks or several days. I would turn on the TV and I would flip my email and I would delete until I had the number down by 100 emails, literally, and then I would save the rest for another day. Eventually, I got down to only having like 50 email in my inbox, and then when you get to that point, it can still feel a little overwhelming because you've still got to figure out what to do with the rest of these emails, but that's what we're going to talk about in the next step. Some people want to have inbox zero, which means that everything that comes in their inbox, they delete it or deal with it immediately. I don't really buy into that, so I'm going to show you what I do. Oh, and when you're finished deleting, you'll want to flip that around so that your inbox is with the new email on top again. And the book Joy at Work by Marie Kondo that came out this last summer has a tip that if deleting is overwhelming for you and you don't want to delete all these emails, you can archive them. You can just select everything in your entire inbox and archive it, and then you'll be able to search it later. I don't think that would work for me. I like to have labels and archive things that I think I'll be able to find more easily, but if deleting is something that's going to bother you, you can always just archive it. Okay, so we're already on step 3, and this is the one where you have to put a little more thought into it. You can't just kind of idly do this while you're watching TV or something, because you have to decide what kind of categories you want to use. So every email system has a way that you can save email without it being in your inbox. In Gmail, you can label it and archive it. In Outlook, it'll be folders. Also with Outlook, if you have the Outlook in your browser, it is a little bit different than if you have Outlook on your desktop. So it will look a little bit different if you have desktop than if you have the online, but you can do the same thing in both. If you have a different system, they may call it something else, but there will be something that you can do. And if you can't tell, you can try right-clicking an email to look at where your options are. So when you're deleting and you see what's left that you want to keep, you'll start to get an idea of what categories you want to use. But some that I have used to give you an idea, I have one for family email, one for school email, one from friends, one for photos, and one for recipes. I have several other, I may have too many categories, but that is some that I think other people might find useful. Also in Gmail, you can apply more than one label to an email, so that can be really helpful. In Outlook Online with the folders, you can copy an email in one folder to another folder if you have something that you don't know which category should go in. And in the desktop Outlook, you can apply more than one category to an email. So at this point, you're going to want to go through the email that you have left and give them a label and archive them if you're in Gmail, or put them in a folder or whatever your email platform does. And this one can take a little while because sometimes it isn't immediately obvious of which category you want to put it in. And as I said, I may have too many categories. It's something that I did without planning it. So I had one that was pictures and one that was photos. So when I did my organization, I had to go to the one that said pictures and change all the labels in that to photos and then delete that category. but it's pretty easy if you have something labeled to go back and change it. If you do just put everything in archive, then you don't have to label it. You can just search it later. That doesn't really work for me. It makes me nervous. I'm a librarian and I want everything to be categorized. So if it's something that you know you're going to want to find again later, I would label it. Now, after you have decided what your labels or categories are, you can make rules for new email to go directly into that label if you want them to do that. One thing that I have is a label called Weekend, and the few newsletters that I kept, I'll never really want to read those on the weekend, so I have a rule to automatically send them to that label. Then on Saturday morning, I get out my tablet and open my email, and I click on that label, and all of my newsletters are there. So I'm going to go back into my Gmail, and I'm going to show you how to set up a role, and you'll probably be surprised how easy it is. So I'm just going to click on this first email. You have all of these over here on the side. If you wanted to archive, you could just do that. If you wanted to delete, you could do that there. You can mark it as unread, but I'm going to go over here. Well, for one thing, if you wanted to label it, you could do that there. But we're going to click on this 3 dots. It's always a good idea to watch for something like that because it's going to be a menu. So I'm going to go down to filter messages like these. So it's got who it's from up there. Most of my rules, that's what they're based on, who it's from. You can change other things. You can put in anything like a certain subject line or a phrase, and you want everything with that phrase in it to go to a specific label or just to delete. You can say whether or not it has an attachment, so maybe everything that has an attachment and the words school project, you want them to go to a school project label. Most of the time I leave this stuff blank. And then I'm going to create filter. And these are your options. You can just skip the inbox and it goes into an archive. As I've said, I like to apply a label. So what I would do is I would click that one and choose one of my labels. And I'll click skip at the inbox. And you can also set up a couple of others, like if something that you want is going to spam, you can set up a rule to stop that from happening. If you like to use the category of making something important, you can mark it so that something from your boss is always marked important. And then Gmail has these categories. It's dividing email into primary, social, or promotions, and sometimes it marks them as updates or forums. If there was something that was going to your promotions and you wanted it to go into primary, you could change that right there. And there's one other matching message from the same email address, so I would click that and it would grab the other one. Now I'm not going to actually create this filter because I don't need it, but if I did that, it would apply the label ALA to both of the emails with the matching email address. It would put them in the primary email inbox and it would want to archive them so that they wouldn't be in primary very long. So if I created that, then it would take this out of my inbox. Right now it still says inbox. So to see that again, you would just open up an email, go to the 3 dots, filter messages like me. It's got this person's email address in there. Create the filter, and most of what I do is I skip the inbox and apply a label. And then if I created that filter, it's showing I have 4 matching messages. I would actually grab that too. So it would apply the label accessibility to the 4 messages from that same email address, and it would put them into my archive. So if I create a filter, that would be what that would do. Okay, this is what it looks like in Outlook. They call it a sweep. If you open up an email, the option to sweep comes up at the top. and it's pretty much the same thing. It gives you some options of what you can do for messages from the same email. You can just move them all out of the inbox folder, or you can do these other things. You can say that you want the ones that are older from 10 days ago. And I can't click on this because this is just a picture, but where it says deleted items, you can change that location. You could change it to archive. And then if you clicked OK, it would set up this automatic rule for you. Then every time I got something from edX News, it would go to wherever I set it. So this would basically be the same thing as unsubscribing. It would just not tell the people you're unsubscribing. And it would eventually fill up your archive. If you have desktop Outlook, you can set up some rules and you can use the cleanup function. And you can do that by going to File in the top left-hand corner, then go into Options, and then go into Mail. There may be, if you have work email, there may be some rules set up by your administrator about whether or not you can set up automatic rules, but the cleanup function, I'm pretty sure, is there for everyone. Another option you have is to forward some email to another account. If you subscribe to something on your personal email and you realize it's really something that you would only read at work, you can just forward everything from the email address to your work email address. You could unsubscribe to it and resubscribe to it, but it would be easier to forward. So we actually already saw that. It's the same thing. You go into this and you filter, create filter, and it's grayed out because I don't have a forwarding address added. If you click on that, this is where you can add a forwarding address. So if you wanted to send this from your personal to your work email, you would click that. You would put in the email address that you want to use. I'm not going to do that right now. And then you could finish creating that filter so that everything from that email would go straight to your work email. And if you set up rules like that for your email, that's called automation. So if you hear people talking about automating, then that's one of the ways you can do that. So in case you didn't know that you can automate, now you can, and it's actually pretty easy. So the last part isn't really technical, it's just something to keep track of. And I call it doing a review because I've read the David Allen book, Getting Things Done, which I'm not going to get into because it's really complicated, but he has this productivity system, and the last step is doing a review. So the idea of the review is that you have a set time, maybe once a week or once a month, and in that time you go into your email and you just check to see if there's anything left that you need to deal with or archive or delete. If you have automatic rules set up so that email is bypassing your inbox, you'll want to check those labels or folders to see if there's anything in there you need to address or delete. And that would be a good time to check your spam or junk folder because sometimes things do get to spam that you actually want to keep. And then you could mark that as not spam. And that will stop email from piling up again in your inbox. If you don't do this step, I can tell you from personal experience that if you get your email down to like 10 email and it looks amazing, if you don't review, it's just going to start creeping up again. So it's better if you have a time kind of planned to do that. Another benefit, and that's kind of the point of David Allen's book, is that if you have a time when you go and you check it later, then if you're busy and an email comes up and you can't deal with it, you can feel like this is okay because I know I'm going to do that review on Saturday and I'll catch it then. And how often you do a review is up to you. You could do one at the beginning and end of each day. I try to do one on my work email at the end of the work week. And for my home address, I'm going to try to start doing that once a week, but I've been doing it when I have about 20 new emails that are sitting in my inbox because I really don't ever need that many at once. And if you want to know more about getting things done, the library has the book. We have it in print and in audio and in ebooks. And there are lots of people who are talking about it online, even though the book is like 20 years old. So you could just search it and read some of the summaries. And the website Lifehacker covers it a lot, and they have a primer that really goes into it pretty deep. So those are the 4 steps. If you go through those, you'll be able to get your email wrestled down into something that is manageable, and you'll be able to know that the emails you want to keep with things like family photographs or recipes are saved in a place where you'll be able to get to it easily. These are 2 of the websites that I used when I was setting this up. I'm just going to leave this here for a second in case you want to jot down those addresses. Neither of them are tech articles. This is one that this is one computer class where really only one of the steps is technical, and that is the setting up rules step. This is how you can contact me if you have any more questions. The first email is my main work email that I check all the time, and the second one is the one that I actually used in this class, so you have seen my inbox, and there's my phone extension if you wanted to ask me a question. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to take a survey, you can actually suggest more classes that you'd like to have, and if you do, it's only about 5 questions. So there is the URL at the bottom, and that is it for the class. Thanks for watching, and I hope it helps.